Hello, guys. It is J.Belle with Power 98 and the Gossip Minute. I have with me RL at just RL. And when I tell you he is one of my favorite R&B singers of all time. We're not even going to say genre or eras of all time. Wow. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a giddy little giddy schoolgirl because growing up, I had like the hugest crush. I know.
Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable, but I have to be honest. You know, this is a girl's dream to like meet one of their
You know what's
singers.
funny though is, you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? Can I tell him?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Verbally, we agreed it was over and we were through. I'm trying to compose myself, but I just can't get over you because we can't be friends.
You know what? You're right, RL.
I didn't want to tell them about our past. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, if you guys don't know what he's talking about, I interviewed you guys a couple of years ago. You had a tour stop in Charlotte, and we had the best time. I had you guys cracking up. You had me guys cracking up. And you asked me about one of my favorite R&B groups, and I said no comment. Because I was like, next is it. Nobody else matters at that time. So yeah, we do have a little history. So let's go ahead and jump into this. I listened to your album or your EP, The Letter J. And when I tell you first sounds R&B, 90s R&B feel, I was like, I'm back in school. Like for me, because the samples that you had on there from Jodeci, I think you also had Janet Jackson on there. There was
and John B.
Okay. I was trying to figure out who else. What was the inspiration behind this? I mean, especially in these times.
Well, I gave it away for free. You know, in the climate that we're in for artists from my genre and my, time, it's hard for us because we're trying to navigate a new social media driven landscape, and we still have talent that we want the world to know. So I looked at it like showing up to a first date and handing you flowers to impress you. So I wanted to give you something to remind you of who I am as an artist, and I really wanted to pay homage at the same time to artists that really inspired me. So, growing up in the north side of Minneapolis, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were big influences on me. So to be able to take a Janet record, and it's funny because Jimmy Jam reached out to me after he heard it and showed me a lot of love. And then, of course, John B. Is a friend of mine. And then Jodeci, of course, that's the bar you're measured by when you come from my era. I really wanted to just really have fun and take tracks and flip them and give them a little bit of a 2020 edge and have fun, but at the same time remind people like, wait a minute, okay, it doesn't sound dated, but it don't sound like you're trying to be young. It just sounds dope, which is what I hope people get out of the letter J. So I was just wanting to have fun, give away some music to remind people that the aura is still here, and have fun.
Definitely did. Definitely took me back. And so I wanted to ask you that because I'm glad that you mentioned about today's social media and the landscape of it. What are your thoughts on today's R&B?
I mean, I love all music. I think that there's room for everybody, and I'm not the old guy in the club with the linen on, with the sandals, sitting in the back hating on the younger cats. I'm 23 years in, and I want to do 23 more years. But I think there's lanes for everybody. I love a lot of the new music. I think some of it you classify it as R&B, and I classify it more as like hip hop with melodies. But there's some great artists out there that I love. I might not classify them the way others do. I think just because you have a rhythm and you're singing a melody, it doesn't make it R&B. I think you got to be able to riff and turn the music off and really make people feel it. I think that's the difference with rhythm and blues. You know what I'm saying? There's the rhythm, of course, which you groove, but that blues is that feeling that you evoke from your talent. And I think that there's a lot of new artists that do that, though. I love Lucky Day. I love Tiffany Gaucher, of course, her. There's a lot of great new acts out there, but I don't feel like it's my competition. I feel like that's them. Let them get theirs. Let me stay in my lane, and let's all get it.
Wow. I was just about to ask you who were some of your favorite R&B artists from today, but let's talk about some of your favorite R&B artists from the past. You
Okay.
know, I want to know who were some of those artists that influenced you in your career. As you said, you've been in the game for over 20 years, and so you definitely have some type of inspiration behind that.
Well, of course, Jay Moss, if we're talking gospel, he's my all-time favorite.
Oh yeah.
Jodeci, of course, Boys to Men. My cousin is Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind, and Fire. So, of
What?
course, yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire. From Minneapolis, so Prince and Jimmy and The Time and all of those cats.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael Jackson was my biggest. I wanted to be Michael growing up. Every kid did. You got in front of the stove and tried to moonwalk after Motown 25. So, yeah, a lot of those artists. But, it's funny because I'm influenced by everything I hear. I could be in an interview and somebody say something. As a writer, I try to absorb and be a sponge to everything around me. Somebody could be telling me their girl is tripping or their man is tripping, and I can say, "Oh, I can make a song out of that." So I try to stay in tune with everything around me. Whether it's nature, whether it's a car passing by, whether it's whatever it is, a TV show. I literally try to pay attention to the little things because I might be able to find inspiration behind that.
Ooh. And I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I was going to ask you about your songwriting background, because I still don't think a lot of people realize that you are a songwriter also, and you've written for some pretty big
Yeah.
names like Janet. I mean, not even Janet, but Jamie Foxx is one name that comes to mind. And I think we discussed this before. You wrote
Uh huh.
Storm Forecast for him. Am I
Uh huh.
correct?
Yep.
And I
Yes, I
told you it was
did.
one
Yep.
of my favorite records. So every time I listen to it, it sounds different to me now, knowing that you're behind it. But it was one of those records that is just
Lights
timeless.
out like a power outage because of your lightning and your best rain showers. I can feel the mist every time we kiss. Just didn't know it downpour like this. There's a flash flood warning till we wake up in the morning. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
You're going to have me blushing throughout this whole interview, Ariel. Okay. You also wrote a couple of records on Jaheim's first album,
Yep. Uh huh.
the biggest one being Anything.
Yeah, anything
Let's,
in I don't know which one is bigger because just in case gets I guess because it's more of an up tempo, it gets
right.
people grooving. But I love performing anything sometimes at some of our tour stops. People are like, well, why are you singing that record? I'm like, well, it's really kind of mine, so it's kind of cool.
So just a little humbleness on it, but no, that's my record, okay. But yeah, this one is another one of my favorite records that I love. I think I remember listening to when I was younger, but I recently became re-obsessed with it again, if that's even a word. But I'm obsessed with that record because it sounds so good. You guys sound so good together. Um,
Thank you.
how did that collaboration come about?
Well, we were all discovered by KG from Naughty by Nature, so we
Okay.
were literally sleeping on the floor of his back house on air mattresses, all of us together, just struggling and ordering this place called Cluck You Chicken. And we would all share plates because we didn't have no paper like that. And we grew pretty close, I have a special place in my heart for Ja because we all actually auditioned together for Clive Davis for Arista Records, but Clive only chose us at that moment. And
Oh.
he ended up going to Warner Brothers and having an amazing career. He still has an amazing career, but I always had a special place in my heart for Ja because I know he grew up, hard. He had to take care of his siblings, and I know his mother passed when he was really young. So he's a survivor, and he's like, one day they're gonna have a movie about Ja. So there were records that I had written that weren't even supposed to be for him, but when he asked me for them because of my love and respect for him, I
Mhm.
gave them to him. So yeah, John holds a and he doesn't even know that because I know we spoke one day and I think somebody had hit him and told him I said that he was homeless and I was like, nah, I was basically saying we was all homeless and sleeping on the floor of KG back house, but you know how things can get twisted on
Mhm.
social media and the messenger or whatever. But I don't even think John realizes the respect and love I have for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you guys are like what we would say now compared to what was going on at the time of R&B. True vocalists.
Oh,
You
thank you.
you guys can run down a run and have the girls going like, "Oh my god." You know what I'm saying? Like that's how R&B should be because like you said earlier, they kind of do melodies. These artists now, they don't really
Right.
sing like
Well, it
they.
reminds me of when I was coming up, there was an artist named Domino, and he had a record, Here We Go, Here We Go. And he was a rapper, but he had like a dope melody. And I think that there are certain cats that do that, and we try to say it's R&B, and they're paying homage to R&B, and maybe they're not like vocalists, but they're artists, and they want to be able to do it all, which is dope. But we try to categorize that as what we do, and I'm not saying one is better or worse. I just don't put it in the same category of a vocalist that's out here riffing, and really you cut the music and they hitting a long note and you over there squirming like the 5 heartbeats, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
ooh. So that's just how I try to differentiate it.
Got you, got you. And I also want to talk a little bit about your history with Tupac, because you did do a song with him. I know we discussed it before, but kind of break it down for new listeners that are learning about you, kind of the project that you and Tupac did together. I think it was like early in your career.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was funny. It was I was in LA and I was working on my solo project, which I really didn't want to do, but I almost like didn't have a choice. But all these opportunities start coming, and I was driving down the highway and I get a call, and they're like, "Yeah, we need you to go to the record store that just dates this, because they don't even have record stores like that anymore. But go to the record store, pick up this Mr. CD." And I was like, "Who's that?" And they had this record, "Take These Broken Wings." So I was like, oh, "Okay." And they were like, "Well, learn it, make it your own, and you have the studio tomorrow because we need you to do this Tupac record." So I did it, and I get a call from Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mom. So I'm afraid. I'm like, "Oh, I done messed up." She's asking me for my mother's address. And I'm like, "Huh?" I'm like, "I hope, I didn't get in trouble." She's like, "I want your mother's number and address." She ended up sending my mother flowers. And she was like, you really brought life to my son's song. And they were like, "Okay, this is going to be the second single." Well, literally 2 days later, they're like top 8 at 8 or something on the radio station out in LA. And the record is like number 2. And I get a call back like, "Matter of fact, can you come to the studio this coming up weekend and we're going to shoot the video?" Now it's the first single. So all these things just started happening. And I know that was all God's hand in it. But all of a sudden I had this record. And of course, when you're standing next to Tupac, pretty much anybody, who you are doesn't matter. So a lot of people didn't realize that it was me on the record. And then they went and they used my government last name. It was funny. So, and I couldn't argue, because what do you argue? This is Tupac. So you're like, "Okay, I'm just blessed to be on the record with Pac. If it's RL Hugger, then that's what it is." So, you know what I mean? That's what it ended up being. But a lot of people don't even know that I've done that, or a lot of things, because truthfully, when I was coming up, I was in a group. So I was always trying to be about the group, let the attention be on the brand. So I never was able to promote the fact that I was writing, like, "Whatever you want to do, love, love, whether it's at the crib." I was able to write all these great records,
oh,
Luther, Usher, these different people, but I never got to sit around and talk about myself, because when we would do interviews, it was always centered around what the group was doing, which I take pride in.
right.
But now there's little, things that people find out later that give me a little more love, and I appreciate it. It's super dope.
And I think that's the joy of streaming services now and YouTube, because you can go back and discover new music and really learn the history or learn new things about some of your favorite groups, singers, songwriter singers, things like that. And I
Uh-huh.
think that that's really, really good. And so I want to ask you this too, as we talk about collaborations.
Uh-huh.
If you could do any collaboration with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Well, of course, Mike would be first. I love Big. Big was my favorite. Him and Big L. As far as hip hop, um, if they're talking about alive now, it would probably be Brandy or Shania Twain. I love country music, which is crazy. They have like the
Really?
best writing, and she's super dope. But I've always loved Brandy. I love her new project. I'm glad she finally went back to making music, because it's like she's so dope. And then I understand when you're in your career later in your latter years and you start doubting what you do and who you are, but she's like one of the best to have ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was disappointing to hear her attempt to do music that was below her,
Oh.
with other records and features and stuff like that. But then when I got B7, a new project, I was like, there goes the vocal Bible. That's what I'm talking about. So I've always been a huge fan of Brandy.
I could definitely see you guys together on a record. I mean, if it's anything like you and Deborah Cox with We
I,
Can't Be
I have
Friends.
a record on my album that's coming that I've been waiting on the vocals from Coco from SWV, because me and my partner B Flat, we sampled "You're Always on My Mind," and we have a duet, and she was supposed to jump in the studio and do it, but COVID came. So when
Hmm.
all of that is done, she's gonna go in and do the vocals for me. So me and Coco, she's one of my favorites too.
Well, let's talk about your album that you're gonna have coming out. That you brought that up, and I know
Uh-huh.
that you have that coming out. This is your first project since 2013, and so
Uh-huh.
we're very very excited. So let's talk
Thank you.
about some of those elements. You talked about Coco. What else should we expect on this album?
Well, we sampled Butter Love. I've never sampled one of my own records, so I flipped Butter Love, me and my partner. There's a record called I Got the Love, which is one of my favorites. It's funny because I wanted to put out the EP in order to garner attention to show people that I'm still here. And a label out of the UK contacted me, and we're doing a deal where I have the single coming out, which is called Another Night, which is a club banger, up tempo, feel good, barbecue, skating rink type record. Um, so after that, it'll be the album, which is called The Procession, which is like, people are like, why is it called The Procession? Well, it's because people feel like I'm on my way to my funeral. You know, in our community, I'm 43. That's old. You know, in most other communities, that's not really old. And I feel like I'm just getting started.
Mm.
So it's called The Procession, and it's playing on the fact that people think we're on the way to my funeral, and now that's quite the contrary. We're on to some new music.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. Other features, it's hard to say because um, I've been working with different people. I know we have the me and my partner did this new Jeezy record featuring Demi Lovato that's coming. We did the Pull Up for Lil Duval and Ty Dolla Sign.
Hmm.
That was originally a Next record, which is crazy. That Pull Up, there's a party going on right here. We did that. So yeah, we're just having fun creating music. I've recorded over 100 and something records for my album, but what happens is people will come around and I'll be around fellow artists. They be like, I want this record. Like I've been talking to Carl Thomas, he wants a couple records.
Mm.
So things like that, Dave Hollister, different people like that. Maybe even the new Blackstreet album, which is my big bro Chauncey Black's, variation of the group. We've been talking. So it really depends because I have all these records and I'm trying to figure out exactly what body of work I feel like best represents where I am right now in life.
Mm.
So, but it'll be ready. I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be the best body of work I've ever been involved with.
Well, I'm definitely excited. I mean, you bring
Thank you.
back R&B, especially after that EP. Yeah, I'm definitely excited. So let's switch subjects a little bit because
Okay.
obviously right now we're 8 months into a pandemic. Like you mentioned
Uh-huh.
earlier, COVID hit before Coco could get in the studio.
Uh-huh.
Um, we also got political unrest from George Floyd earlier this year, and although the election is over, it's not really over. We're still counting as we
Yeah.
speak.
Right.
Um,
Uh-huh.
what are some of your thoughts of what's going to happen or what could happen as a Black man if 45 is reelected?
Well, I'm from Minneapolis, so I end up having to fly back and meet with the chief of police after the George Floyd incident. Truthfully, seeing how all this stuff is going down, it's disappointing because I know that there are certain people out there that know that he's has racist ways and knows about the issues, but they're more concerned with the economics of it all.
Mm.
Most of the Trump supporters I meet are like, I'm making more money than I've ever made. And they're talking a few extra $100 a paycheck. And my thought process is, if you're making a few extra $100 a paycheck, think what the owner of the company is making.
Mm.
So the money should really start here and go up here. But what Trump is doing is what Reagan did, which is trickle down economics. He's making sure all the rich people get the money and give us little pennies. And a lot of us are happy with that. But I do also know that some of it isn't racism, it's ignorance. And I'll give an example. Sometimes I'll go home and I'll be around people that haven't traveled. They haven't experienced life. So they really think the world is just like our block that we grew up on. They really think that that's how everywhere gets down. And I know that there are these, Caucasians in these hick towns that really think that what they see on a music video or in a movie is really the Black community. The difference is I don't watch an Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone movie and think that, every Caucasian person is a mercenary. You know what I'm saying? But they judge us from this. And I think some of it is really ignorance and just being removed from it so they don't have any empathy or sympathy. They really look at it like there's no police brutality, just follow the officer's directions and everything will be fine. Well, when you're targeted, it doesn't work that way. I'm confident Biden is going to get elected. That's exactly why Trump is trying to have all these lawsuits, because he knows his time is up. it's not even going to be as close as we think it looks right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it is disappointing to see right now 60-something million people, regardless of his hate that he preaches, regardless of what he's telling the Proud Boys and all these different things, it's hurtful. Lastly, I'll say this. I think the good thing about his presidency is we got relaxed as the people thinking, okay, we're going towards equality. People love us the same. And truthfully, it showed that no, these people that preach hate and look at us differently because of our skin color have always been there, but they've been hidden. Now they're out of the woodwork and we can see them. I'd rather see my enemy than be thinking we cool. My coworkers and people you eat lunch next to every day, you're thinking they got love for you and they really just think that you're one of the good ones. But they think everybody else is bad. So I think that that's the only good thing that has come out of this, fact that he was even, it's embarrassing to say that Donald Trump was really the president of the United States of America. Mr. Celebrity Apprentice, we really let this guy be president. But I digress. I'm just looking forward to this Biden-Harris ticket and celebrating the fact that we have a black queen that's going to be vice president.
Hey, and you said it. I agree with you. I agree everything that you're saying. I also want to ask you, because I know that you're a father. You have a son and you have your youngest daughter, Rory, who's 3.
Uh-huh.
By the way, I saw the pictures of her with I Love Lucy, and she was so cute with her red hair.
Thank you.
You being a girl dad, what are some of the values that you're instilling in your daughter? Because, obviously Breonna Taylor was a huge thing. Black women are not being protected the way they should be. So what are some of the values that you're instilling in your daughter as she grows up?
Well, the main one is she can do anything. I have a 25-year-old son and a 3.5-year-old daughter. So it's like a big difference. And I was set in my ways. I was 40 when she was born. So all of a sudden, it's her way. It ain't my way. You can't be set in your ways with a little girl. But the main thing has always been there's nothing that she can't do. She might need assistance and it's okay to ask for help, but don't ever feel limited because you're a girl. And she's beautiful because she is different. With the red hair, that's not quote unquote the norm. But I don't ever want her to dye her hair, unless it's for a movie role because she wants to be an actress, a doctor, a singer, a lawyer, a judge. It depends on the day. Right. But I want her to take pride in the differences that she has. I think that we all should do that. You should be. I think that a lot of times you're young, you get teased about things that make you different. But I think that's what makes you special, and that's what I'm trying to instill in her now, so that when she is old enough to get teased, that she's confident in herself. So that's really the main thing I try to teach her.
I love it. I love you being a girl dad too, because I remember when you came to visit, it was so cute. You was like the biggest thing. Or no, I asked about your daughter, and you was like, she has my heart. Like that's it. She can say whatever she wants, and she'll get it.
Yeah, she hurt my feelings. I picked her up from her tutor one day, and my parents met at the Dairy Queen. So I was like, I'm gonna take her to Dairy Queen. I promised I'd pick her up from school. Usually her mother picks her up. I picked her up, and she has this thing for the dollar store, the Dollar Tree, whatever. She wants to go there because she's like, at least she has this whole mind of I can go buy one toy for this much, or I can go here and buy 10 toys. So she likes, that's her mom's thing. So we're passing by. She's like, we're not going there. I'm like, no, I got a surprise for you. When she found out we was going to get ice cream, she was mad. And it hurt my feelings so bad. I was like, dang. But then she came up to me like 30 minutes later and was like, I'm sorry, Daddy, and gave me a hug, and everything was all right again. So hopefully I can have that effect on her later in life, or even now, to where when she's going through something, if Daddy gives her a hug and shows her some emotion and compassion, that she'll know everything will be all right.
Oh, that is so cute. I love it. Now I got to switch subjects again. We're going to get back into music. But yeah, I definitely love that you're a girl dad.
Thank you.
You have 2 other projects besides your own coming out. You got one with Naughty by Nature. Mm-hmm. And then obviously you have one with your group next. Let's talk about the Naughty by Nature one. I want to know kind of like what is the process of that and when should we expect it?
Well, it's funny because it's called Next by Nature, and we were going to do a new next project, but I don't think we are now.
Okay.
And I wasn't planning on doing any new music with the group. There's no beef. We'll continue to tour. We love each other, but we're just musically and mentally in different places, which I don't feel like that's a healthy place to be recording, because if it doesn't sound connected, then I don't think it's going to be as successful as it should be. But KG, who discovered us after Lance and Prof T, who originally discovered us from the group Low Key, called me and he was like, "I want to do this project." And it wasn't so much of asking or requesting; it was telling for me. He might have felt like he was requesting, but the level of respect that I have for him and the rest of the guys from Naughty for putting us on, it was like, yes, sir, no, sir. That's how it comes from me. And we started on it. We have the first single done. It's called We Like, which I really love. I was able to write and produce it with my partner, B Flat. And we just been working. And it's funny because I'll be in the studio on Instagram and I'll post something on my story, and Kay will call me and he'll go, "What was that you was playing?" I was like, "Oh, this new record I got from my album." He's like, "No, let's use that for the Next by Nature." And it's like, "Yes, sir." Whatever you want to do. So, we're putting it together. It's kind of hard with the pandemic and them being in Jersey, me being here, Tweet being in LA, Tilo being in Phoenix. But we're making it work, just doing it remotely and then getting on FaceTime and on calls to talk about, the direction of everything. But it's fun. And I like doing things that people wouldn't expect. I like going back in and being able to go on with guys that I looked up to, that are the reason that I even am here. And they're asking me my opinion on music and on records and on ideas. How does this verse sound? And I'm like, wait, huh? You're asking me? So it's like a role reversal a little bit, which is super humbling. So I'm excited. And there is another project that I have been working on. It's an Afro Beats project. And I call it Afro Sheets because, I got to keep it kind of sexy. So it's a project that I started producing myself. Like over the quarantine, I started producing more, making tracks. And one day I woke up and I had like 11 or 12 songs done Afrobeat style. A friend of mine, she's a gold medalist, Angel McCautry. She actually plays for the Las Vegas Aces now, but she had asked me to get on one of her Afrobeats records. And then she challenged me like, "Yo, you can't do nothing doper." And I was like, "Oh, really? Well, let me just do an album." And I did an album in like a week. So I think I'm going to put it out.
Oh, you trying to make some quarantine babies during this time? Talking about with the
You already know.
sexiness. Be responsible for a lot of new babies coming out. And I'm glad you talked about your group a little bit. I understand, musical tastes do change over the years, but how do you preserve the legacy of Next, knowing that this new genre of R&B is hitting out? You guys are still touring and stuff, but there's still new listeners discovering you guys after all these years. So what are some of the steps that you take to preserve the legacy of your group?
Well, I think the music does that because there's a lot of music that I probably wasn't even born when it came out, but I listened to because I might have heard my parents or somebody, that's OG to me playing. And if the music is timeless and it's powerful enough, then I'm a groove to it. If I can connect with it, then I think that's the beauty of it. And I think people still connect to certain records we have as well. Also, we made a big mistake years ago. Well, there was a mistake made because I didn't make it. I was kicked out of my group for quite some time. But we had to understand that the brand is bigger than any individual. I never say lead singer because I don't look at it like I am the lead. I think we all lead in different ways. And I had to learn. I'm the baby. I'm the youngest of the group. They're biological brothers. You have to learn how to manage egos. You have to learn how to make everybody feel important. And I didn't understand that. I wasn't mature enough to understand that. I want Tweet to know that even though he doesn't sing lead all the time, that he's an intricate part of the group. If he's not on stage doing what he does, taking his shirt off, being the sex symbol that he is, that the whole totality of the group isn't there. That's not Next. There's something missing. And hopefully other groups will learn from that as well, because I look at 112, and that was one of my favorite groups, and it's only two of them touring now. And one day I want them to wake up and realize it's not about an individual. It's about the brand. It's about the fans, and including me. And they'll come back together and learn from our mistake. But I think you preserve it by when they see you, and I have confidence in this, that when people come to a Next show, they might be like, "Oh yeah, they got that record or this record," but then when they leave, they go, "Yo, I didn't know they did it like that." So it's our job to never get relaxed and to continue to evolve and sell you on the fact that them boys bad.
I agree with that, because when I saw you guys on tour, I was like, excuse my life, I was like, damn. You
Thank you.
guys are like, you have a lot more energy than some of these younger R&B singers on the stage. Y'all was getting it in.
And that's the point. And I think that that's the whole thing. My biggest fear for like newer artists is there's no artist development, and because of the internet and the the ease of which you can record now, you can go on YouTube and buy a track for $30 and you know do it on your computer and put it out there. There's no artist development to where you could blow up and hit a lick off of one record, but then you haven't really honed your craft and went through the proper steps in order to be an artist in totality. So now you got a dope record, but then all of a sudden people come to your show and they're disappointed because you don't know how to put on. So
Mm.
hopefully, that's not every artist, but there are some artists like that. So there's advantages to the internet and social media, and there's disadvantages. So hopefully we inspire some of the new acts when they come. And truthfully, it's humbling because they'll put us on as a veteran group with the large discography before some new act that has one hot record. And our job is to make it hard for them and for the audience to leave and go, dang, next should have closed or next should have went on later in the show. And hopefully these newer artists see that and they step their game up, because that's all what it's about, inspiring one another, and it's a healthy competition.
And I love it. So my last question to you is obviously Versus is huge, or it has been huge for a while now. I think one of the biggest ones was Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, and then Brandy and
Uh-huh.
Monica. Um,
Uh-huh.
if next was to do a Versus, who do you see yourself going against?
Well, people ask me that, and I wouldn't want to do it because I don't like the name, number one. I don't like verses. If it was like
Oh,
celebration of music or something like that, it'd be different. Number two, Black Twitter I'm scared of Black Twitter. You know what I mean? And honestly, we would be at a disadvantage because I don't think that urban listeners understand how large our records were.
mm,
You know what I mean? We crossed over to pop. So we're looked at by a lot of listeners as a tier below our peers, which is cool. Um, and then, of course, I'm a cheat and I'm going to play all the records I wrote for other artists and my features and stuff like that. But the only way I would really want to do a versus, which I would want to call it something else. I love what Tim and
what's
Swizz
it
have done
doing?
with it. That's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. But if I did it, I want to do it live because I still go and I want to see if you go. Did you take care of your pipes? Can you blow it? Can you sound better than the record? Let's do it. Like if we doing it that way, we can maybe I would consider it. Other than that, I don't want to compete with anybody. I want to celebrate your music because heck, you might be singing something. I'm gonna start singing along because I have a lot of respect and admiration for all the artists that came with us because I understand what it takes and what it took to get here. So I
Mm,
understand the struggle. So I can look at another artist like I can look at 112 or Jagged or Drew Hill and all these other groups and go, I know you're in a place where you're frustrated because you're still dope. You still got dope ideas. You're artists, and you're stuck right now because you're trying to figure out the same thing we're trying to figure out. How do we get our music to our core audience that maybe they don't come online for that? They're not streaming like that. So there's a level of respect that I have for all of these great artists to where if we celebrating, let's get on to celebrate and be laughing, and maybe we tell some stories that we ain't supposed to tell about back in the day when we was on the road or something like that. That's
right.
different. I would love to do that. If we just celebrating, chilling, talking, and laughing about these songs, and because somebody will play a record, I might be like, man, I used to be so jealous when this came on. I wish I wrote this record. I wish this was our record. Those are the fun moments that we could have. But I'm not trying to go up against anybody per se.
Gotcha. I understand. I get it. Me personally, I would like to see you guys probably go against Boys to Men or something like that. But hey,
Now, I'm gonna be honest. Boys the Men has so that's a point. That's exactly my point. They have so many pop hits
gotcha.
that went somewhere else. That would be like what kind of like Mary going against Mariah because Mary got the streets. She do.
Right.
But if we
Mm-hmm.
talking about like over here Grammy, Oscar movie STEM, it's just different.
Yeah.
And one's not necessarily better than the other, but it's two different audiences. And what's tuning in the verses is Black Twitter.
I think we
I
all
love I love my people, but I be scared. Once they go in and they cancel you, man, there is no grace online no more. It's like it's over for you. You're done.
I agree. Black Twitter is a little harsh and rough at times, but can't do nothing but take it with a grain of salt. And
Right.
I understand. I understand. But I do have a bonus question for you, because I was talking about this with my PD when I mentioned I was going to interview you. And your song "To Close" at the time was one of the songs that are like considered very, very dirty. And now you
Yeah,
hear
of
songs
course.
like "WAP."
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts on that? Like at one point, the lyrics in your songs were like, "What? We gotta block all this out." And now you hear "WAP" and you like, "Oh, that's."
Well, there was always room for both. There was Sex You Up and, stuff like that. But a lot of the records from back in the day didn't make any sense. Like you think of Color Me Bad. We can do it till we both wake up. How we doing it when we can do it till we both wake up? That don't even make no sense. We sleeping doing it like that. We dreaming at the same time. I know sleepwalking, but sleep sexing, I ain't never heard of that, right? And I love the song. So, but with us, I wanted to make sure we could. I'm a hip hop artist first. I had a
Mhm.
record deal for rapping before I became a singer. So I was always trying to be slick with the lyrics, and that's how we were able to go over people's heads with Too Close. There really isn't any words per se that are bad in the song. It's just the subject. And it's always about saying something slick. Perfect example is, and I don't want to get vulgar, but a man coming up to a woman like, I want you to suck. And you're like, wait, what? You better get on my face. But if a man said, you know what, tonight I just really want you to taste me. There's a big difference. One could be
Mm.
played, one could be shown on TV, one can't. So I've always wanted to be the taste me guy, you know what I mean? Or I want to be inside of you, I want to be with you, not I want to smash, or it's always about saying the same thing but saying it creatively. I'm not against either one, because right now with the younger culture, and they're more open. I listen to a lot of R&B, and I love Chris Brown. He's one of my favorites. I remember before he made it. Um, but I'll hear some curse words, and don't get me wrong, my favorite slang word is the N word. I'm from the Midwest. So, I mean, that's the word. We use that like we breathe. But, I'm hearing bees and this and that in certain songs, and I'm kind of uncomfortable with it. And I'm like, is it because I'm getting older and more mature, or is it, a difference in music? So I try to enjoy the art and look past maybe certain language sometimes, but
Mhm.
sometimes you need to, be a little bit vulgar, because it's okay when it's you with the man you love and you want him to respectfully disrespect you in a good way. There's certain things he can get away with that others that a newcomer can't. So I try to just balance it. So I have no problem with WAP. I mean, I thought the video was dope. I think that they're both sex symbols. I actually have a record with a rapper named Nicki and um, Meg The Stallion that I'm on, where we sampled Pretty Ricky. So I'm looking forward to that. So I've known about Meg before she blew up. I'm a fan. Of course, I'm a fan of the come up of Cardi, because to
Mhm.
see how far she's come, people were laughing at her teeth, laughing at how she spoke, but she took that big personality and cashed in being herself, and you can't be mad at that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Uh, Thank you for that input. And RL, I don't have any more questions. I mean, this was a great conversation.
See, that's the thing. People need to take notes, because this wasn't an interview. This was a conversation between two friends. And I think those are the best. And that's why when I see you on some big stations and things like that, I can go, she interviewed me before. And I hope that I'm on a level to where I'll get interviewed again. So I'm really appreciative of you even taking the time to interview me. This has been amazing. And what's crazy is I'm going to give you something. I woke up this morning to work out. I get up at 4:30 every morning, and I have vertigo. I'd never, I was dizzy. I couldn't work out. And I'm like, yo, I got to get right for this interview. And honestly, this interview balanced me. I promise to goodness. I literally had to call my ear, nose, and throat specialist, and she had to call in some stuff for me and tell me these things to get, because I'm doing a Black Music Honors for honoring Deborah Cox tomorrow. And so
Wow.
I fly out tonight, and I woke up, I never felt that way. I never, and I had to look it up. I'm like, yo, my ear feels funny. What's going on? I'm like, I know
Mhm.
I ain't got no ear infection. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's up? I literally woke up this morning with vertigo, and I was like, what? No, it scared me. I'm like, all I think about is shows and things I have to do. And I
Mhm.
knew I had to go represent for big sis Deborah Cox tomorrow with tonight for tomorrow. And I was just wanting to get well for this interview, and it ended up being one of my favorite interviews ever. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, RL. You don't know how much that means to me. And I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. And I'm really looking forward to all of your projects, everything that you have
Thank you.
going on, and seeing more of Rory on your IG, because she
Yeah.
is just the most adorable thing ever. I think one of the joys
Thank
of
you.
being Black is you can be any shade, any color, and still, do your thing. So as we watch and wait, make sure you send me that single so I can blast it soon. And
I promise.
guys, as you can see, two friends caught up, having a good time. If you
Yes.
want to get more on RL, give your socials just in case people don't have it.
It's Just RL everywhere, or you can go to justrl.com. That's where you can get the EP for free. You can download it free, whatever you want to do. Hopefully, you guys like it. But listen, make sure you tune in every time she's interviewing somebody. She is the best. Jay, you have no idea. This is amazing. Yes, I had a great time, and I can't wait to do this again.
Now, you heard that from RL, right? I'm a good interviewer. Okay, bye, guys. We got to go. We got to go do some more talking. We'll see you later.